me, Prabhupada. Huh? Tulsi Maharani. What should I just sing? Radha Madhava?
Yes, kind of standard. That's life.
Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Okay, thank you everybody for coming for this morning's class of Bhagavatam. Is there a book somewhere? Book would be handy. If there is a book. Yeah. Is there a verse? There's no verse on Buddha. But you can just use your phone.
Yeah, just use
use your phone.
So we skip the writing?
Yes. You can use the German book also.
Do you need book here?
Yeah, it'd be good to read that. Let me check. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 27, verse 2. 2, verse 2. That's great. Just give me 1 second. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So this is verse number 2. You got the verse. Sa Raja Mahishim Rajan. Sa Raja Mahishim Rajan. Sa Raja Mahishim Rajan. Susnatam Ruchira Nanam. Susnatam Ruchira Nanam. Susnatam Ruchira Nanam. Krita Swastya Yanam Triptam. Krita Swastya Yanam Triptam. Krita Swastya Yanam Triptam. Abhya Nandad Upagatam. Ubhyanandad Upagatam. Abhyanandad Upagatam. Sa Raja Mahishim Rajan. Sushnatam Ruchirananam. Krita Swastyayanam Triptam. Abhyanandad Upagatam. Ishigolita ki jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Sa Raja Mahishim Rajan. Sushnatam Ruchirananam. Krita Swastyayanam Triptam. Abhyanandad Upagatam. Sa Raja Mahishim Rajan. Susnatam Ruchirananam. Krita Swastyayanam Triptam. Abhyanandad Upagatam.
Saraja Mahishim Rajan.
Saraja Mahishim Rajan.
Susnatam Ruchirananam.
Susnatam Ruchirananam.
Krita Kritasvastyayanam triptam.
Kritasvastyayanam triptam.
Abhyananda dupagatam.
Abhyananda dupagatam.
Saraja Mahishim Rajan.
Saraja Mahishim Rajan.
Susnatam Ruchira Prananam.
Susnatam Ruchirananam.
Kritasvastyayanam triptam.
Kritasvastyayanam triptam.
Abhyananda Dupagatam.
Abhyananda dupagatam. Anybody else? No, okay. Saha,
Saha.
he,
He.
Raja,
Raja.
the king,
The king.
Mahishim,
Mahishim.
the queen,
The queen.
Rajan,
Rajan.
O king,
O king.
Susnatam,
Susnatam.
nicely bathed,
Nicely bathed.
Ruchira Ananam,
Ruchira.
attractive face, Krita Swasti Ayanam, dressed with auspicious garments and ornaments,
Dressed with auspicious garments and ornaments.
Triptam,
Triptam.
satisfied,
Satisfied.
Abhyanandat,
Abhyananda.
he welcomed,
He welcomed.
Upagatam,
Upagatam.
approached.
Approached.
Translation. The queen took a bath and dressed herself nicely with all auspicious garments and ornaments. After taking food and becoming completely satisfied, she returned to the king. Upon seeing her beautifully decorated, attractive face, the king welcomed her with all devotion. Please repeat. The queen took her bath
The queen took her bath
and dressed herself nicely
and dressed herself nicely
with all auspicious
with all auspicious
garments and ornaments.
garments and ornaments.
After taking food
After taking food
and becoming completely satisfied,
and becoming completely satisfied,
she returned to the king.
she returned to the king.
Upon seeing her
Upon seeing her
beautifully decorated,
beautifully decorated,
attractive face,
attractive face,
the king welcomed her
the king welcomed her
with all devotion.
with all devotion.
Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. A woman is generally accustomed to dress herself nicely with fine garments and decorative ornaments. She may even sometimes wear flowers in her hair. Women especially dress themselves up in the evening because the husband comes home in the evening after working hard all day. It is the duty of the wife to dress herself up very nicely so that when her husband returns home, he becomes attracted by her dress and cleanliness and thus becomes satisfied. In other words, the wife is the inspiration of all good intelligence. Upon seeing one's wife dressed nicely, one can think very soberly about family business. When a person is too anxious about family affairs, he cannot discharge his family duties nicely. A wife is therefore supposed to be an inspiration and should keep the husband's intelligence in good order so that they can combinedly prosecute the affairs of family life without impediment. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kalamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Savaitam Savadutam Parijana Salitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sa He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nitya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, thank you for coming, Bhagavatam class. So my name is Radha Govinda Dasa. For those of you who may not know me, I lived at the Bhaktivedanta Manor for a while. I was a brahmachari there for 10 years. Sundar was there as well, Sundar Jagannath Prabhu. So we go back a long way. We used to do a lot of service together, kirtans, different preaching programs. We used to travel around the UK doing kirtan, meeting new people, distributing books. I think we did one or two marathons together as well.
No,
I didn't.
definitely not.
Oh, but you pulled out of the marathon.
I did go.
Well, I did a few marathons. But anyway, we go back a long way, but it's a nice place. Do a bit of preaching, and we're just here for a couple of days. So, Damodar Prasad Prabhu asked me to give class. I said yes. I should have looked at the verse before, but I said yes, and now I know that it was a trap. It was a trap. I was wondering, maybe, do you think you can shut the door? Because there's a lot of noise outside. Thank you. So with the blessings of all the Vaishnavas assembled here today, senior Vaishnavas, and everybody, I'd like to say a few words on this matter. We have some time and we can take some questions in the end. Today is also a very auspicious day. It is the disappearance day of Srivas Thakur. So we'll try and speak about Srivas Thakur a little bit as well. But first about the verse. Now sometimes, just to give you a little bit of context, so this verse is Narada Muni speaking to King Prachina Barhi. Okay, so he's telling him that enough of family business, now's the time to leave. Or now's the time to at least become a little bit detached. The idea is that when a person is young, when he's a student, he's a little bit immature, but he may be good in Shastra, he may have learned a few things, but he needs to learn a few more things by experience. So to get him moving forward in his spiritual life, to help him be more stable, to help him be a bit more spiritually mature and have a bit of experience, what is recommended is a grihastha ashram. So you get married, after you're a brahmachari for a few years, you can get married, and marriage usually makes one stable, fixes his mind upon certain things, and then he can grow in that environment of safety. So it's like a protective net. If there was no marriage, there'd be a lot of problems in this world, unless you're a brahmachari. If you're a brahmachari, that's okay. If you're not a brahmachari, then you get married. If you're not married, I was just looking at some statistics in the UK, of course, and 90% of all crimes committed are by single men. Single men. Family men, very few problems. Okay? I mean, they have their own problems, but at least they're not such a big problem to society because they've got other things to worry about. So, getting married keeps a society peaceful. Okay? So there's brahmachari, and to help him, he gets married. But after he's married for some time, you can't stay married forever. Well, you can, in theory. But the idea is that there is a stage where your attachment becomes too much in grihastha life. Okay, you're attached to your wife, you get attached to your dogs, cats, furniture in the house, your car, your building, you get attached to your mortgage with or without choice. And so there are a lot of attachments. So it is recommended that at some point grihastha life helped you to move forward in your spiritual life, so you take it up. But at some point there is another stage that comes on called vanaprastha life. And this is the time to learn detachment. So it is said that one should move away from family life. He may take the wife with him, go to the forest, but nowadays there are no forests left. And if you go to the forest, it may be, you might struggle a little bit in today's environment. It's too big a gap. In the good old days, when people were living more in line with nature, it was okay to go to the forest because even grihastha life, brahmachari life was kind of a little bit in the forest anyway. the Gurukul would be a little bit away from towns, and towns weren't concrete jungles like now. Towns were okay. So, and people were living in harmony with nature. So going to the forest was okay. You're already kind of, living in harmony with nature. But for somebody to leave a concrete jungle and go into a real jungle might be too big of a gap now. So Srila Prabhupada recommended that you can go to Vrindavan, you can go stay in a temple, or at least if you can't do that, at least you should become more detached from family, stop relying on your wife and children or family life, and do more spiritual things, do more preaching, try to give a bit more to society, and leave your family affairs behind for some time. And then, if you like, if it works, if your wife gives you permission, then you can take sannyas. But sannyas is not compulsory in the Varnashram system. But Vanaprastha, yes, Vanaprastha should be for everybody, it is said. Everybody should take Vanaprastha at some point. There was a point just before I got married about 3 years ago. Just before I got married, I was asked to give class, and the whole verse was on Vanaprastha ashram. So this was the time I hadn't got married yet. My marriage was coming up in like 3 months, and I was giving a class, and I gave an example that Srila Prabhupada gave this example. He said a man in Varnashram should be like a thief. Okay, somebody who enters Grihastha ashram, he should be like a thief. So when you think about, there's all these movies about heist, how you go in, how you break the safe, take the money, and how you get out. What is the most important thing of a heist or being a thief? The most important thing about being a thief is not to steal the money, it's how you get out. If you plan everything about how to get in and how to steal the money, but if you don't plan how to get out, there's no point stealing the money, you'll get caught. Okay? You may steal millions, but then you're caught. Okay, so the most important thing you got to plan is how you're going to get out. So Varnashram system, living in this world, is also like that. So you got to plan, you got to enter Grihastha life, that's okay. That's your theft, okay? You go into Grihastha ashram, that's okay. But even before you go in, you have to plan how to get out. That plan's got to be there. Whether that plan manifests or not, that's another story. Things may change along the way. But it's always good to have a plan. So before marriage, I had this discussion with my wife. I said, look, we've got to plan it, okay? So this is what I read from Srila Prabhupada's books. Okay, I was a brahmachari, my wife was a brahmachari as well. Well, brahmachari means she stayed for a couple of years in Australia. I said, look, we get married, then, when it's this time, then we leave, okay? Let the kids handle everything, leave, and we go more into preaching. She was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So I said that in class. And then about 10 minutes later, after class, my wife started getting all these messages on her phone from different people saying, are you sure you want to marry this guy? I mean, he's not even married yet and he's talking about leaving. Are you sure he's the right guy for you? So people get a little bit jittery and confused. It's like, no, you married. You stay married forever. That's what you do. You just stay all your life. You stay married. You live a happy life. And then you get old, and then you retire, and then you get your free bus pass, at least in the UK, and then you kind of go. But Varnashram system is not like that. It says you're a brahmachari, you get trained, you're a grihastha, you learn tolerance, you get trained, you grow in spiritual life. But then, from a grihastha life to grow even more, you have to take vanaprastha, because you have to. That's how growth happens. From brahmachari, the growth is Grihastha, but from Grihastha the growth is Vanaprastha. At some point you have to leave. If you stay there, then your growth is shunted. You have to keep moving forward in spiritual life. That's the idea. So here in this verse, Narada Muni is telling Prachina Barhi, he's saying that, look, you're too attached. So you got to go. You've done your good things now. It's always good what you've done, but now you got to move. But he doesn't get it. So he tells him a story, a metaphorical story of somebody called Puranjan. Okay, Puranjan. So he's not a real guy. I don't know if he found it from somewhere or he just made the story up. But anyway, Narada Muni tells him a story of Puranjan, and he equates it to real life situations. So he's telling him the story, and this is one of the things that's part of the story. And this is specifically focused on Grihastha life. and he's saying how, the wife is there to give a man inspiration in married life. Okay, man needs some inspiration. Grihastha life is not easy. Okay, you get married, and your honeymoon period. Before I was going to get married, I asked my spiritual master. I said, so I'm going to get married. Do I have your blessings? He said, you have my blessings. I said, so, how long? I said, does, the good time last, the good honeymoon period, in married life? He told me, he goes, about 2 weeks. I said, what, 2 weeks? That's it? Yeah, if you're lucky, maybe about 2 months. He goes, but usually about 2 weeks. So then I got married. I'm not going to tell you what happened, because my wife may be listening from where she is. But we got married, but after a while, it's all fun in the beginning, but after a while it kind of tends to get a bit tedious. This is not my personal experience I'm sharing, but I've heard it from devotees, and not just devotees, anybody who's married. 1 year, 2 year, 5 years is okay, 20 years down the line you're like tired, So man needs some inspiration to carry on in Grihastha life, because when he gets detached, he can't just leave at the age of 30 with 2 kids hanging around, okay? So you can't just, Vanaprastha doesn't mean you're tired of your material life, of your Grihastha life, so you just leave after 5 years. No, that's not the Vanaprastha system. Vanaprastha comes after you fulfill your Grihastha duties. So you may be detached early, but you still got to stick it out for another 20 years. Okay, then you can leave when your children are grown up. So man needs some inspiration to stay. So here it is said that women dress themselves up in the evening because the husband comes home in the evening after working hard all day. So the point is, he's working hard all day. If he comes back and nobody says hello to him, nobody gives him any water, nobody says boo, the wife's watching TV, he has to go and make his own lunch, then at some point he's going to start thinking, okay, why am I doing this? Why am I working so hard? So he needs some inspiration. So that's why it is said it is the duty of a wife to dress herself up very nicely, so that when the husband returns home, he becomes attracted by her dress and cleanliness, and thus becomes satisfied. So at least he comes back and he looks at his wife's beautiful face, she's dressed up nicely, and then he thinks, okay, this is what I'm doing it for. Let's go back to work tomorrow. Otherwise, if he doesn't get that, after a while, he may get a bit, okay. Is that, I don't know, is that correct? I don't know how women think. Something like that anyway. So that's that. So here, but it doesn't end there. So if you look at just this purport, you may think like, okay, what's going on? But if you keep going further in the next few verses, I'm not going to blow your suspense, but if you listen to the next few verses, it goes on from there. So the story continues, it doesn't end there. So there's the attraction, but then there's the detachment that also comes in the later few verses. You may think, why is this important? Isn't Krishna's 10th canto, Krishna's pastimes, bhakti yoga, isn't that the most important? And we may think, yes, the 10th canto is the most important, and specifically the chapters of Krishna dancing with the gopis is the most important. Why is this? But it's not like that. The whole of the Bhagavatam is important. Every single canto, every single verse, every single explanation Prabhupada gives is all very, very important. And this is all there to help us develop the consciousness, so we can get to the 10th canto and understand. But it's not just a path, it's all of it is important. There are a lot of grihasthas, exemplary grihasthas in our tradition. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was one of them. But there were many, many exemplary grihasthas during Lord Chaitanya's times. There were many, many exemplary grihasthas in Krishna's times. Krishna himself was a grihastha. And one of those important grihasthas during Lord Chaitanya's time was Srivas Thakur. And Srivas Thakur is a very good example of how one can be a grihastha and be a devotee at the same time. But he was sort of on a different level. Okay, he was sort of on a different level to us. So we can learn from him, but we shouldn't try to imitate him. But there are a few good things to learn from Srivas Thakur. It is his disappearance day today. Hence we're speaking about Srivas Thakur. And once upon a time, Srivas Thakur was asked by Lord Chaitanya. He said, "You keep doing kirtan all day. That's all I see." He says, I see that you're doing kirtan every day. I never see you do any work. Do you do any work? Do you see any kind of work? how do you get all the money to feed your family, and how do you feed your family? And Srivas Thakur just did this. And Lord Chaitanya said, why are you clapping your hands? I'm asking you a serious question. That how do you feed your family? And he again did that. And Lord Chaitanya said, what do you mean? He said, I have dedicated my life to serving Lord Krishna, and it is Krishna's responsibility to look after me. So if I clap my hand 3 times and there is no food on the table, then I'll go and drown myself in the Ganga. So that was his answer. And Lord Chaitanya was very pleased, and he said, don't worry. He said, even if Lakshmi Devi becomes poor, okay, Lakshmi Devi is the goddess of fortune. She never becomes poor. She goes, I promise you that even if Lakshmi Devi becomes bereft of all fortune, you will never run out of food for your family. I will make sure that everything comes to you. So Lord Chaitanya took that material responsibility for Srivas Thakur, because Srivas Thakur took spiritual responsibility. He just wanted to serve Krishna. So we can't do the same thing. You may clap your hands 3 times and nothing may happen, and then you may want to go and drown yourself in what's the river here? Surik Lake. So don't do that. That's not a good idea. We may need to try a bit harder. But the principle we can take from the story is that we should be, if we focus on our spiritual things, if we're surrendered, then Krishna will help us. We have to make our endeavor in material things also, but at the same time, there's only so many things you can control, and eventually you have to let Krishna take care of that part of your life. Srivas Thakur, he was one of the Panchatattva members. It's always, whenever I read this, it's always written the members of the Panchatattva. It wasn't an association or a club, the Panchatattva club. It was, I don't think there was any time when they came and stood up like this in the, when we see in the picture with all 5 of them standing, and then somebody took a photo. I'm not sure if that happened, that they raised themselves and stood like that. It's a depiction that we normally have. But the Panchatattva, he was a very important member of the Panchatattva association, and there is a very famous verse that you may have heard. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. So this is saying, this is mentioning Krishna in 5 features. Okay, Krishna in 5 features. Bhakta Rupa means Krishna himself came in the form of a devotee, who is Lord Chaitanya. Bhakta Swarupa, Swarupa means expansion. So Krishna's expansion is Nityananda. Again, Krishna in a different form. Bhakta Rupa Swarupam Bhaktavataram, incarnation. So incarnation is Advaita, because Advaita is a form of Vishnu, and Vishnu is an incarnation of Krishna. So Advaita is Bhakta Avatar. Again Krishna in a different way. Bhakta Swarupakam. Swarupa means, no, we've done that. Bhakta Rupa Swarupa Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakhyam, form of a devotee, and Bhakta Shaktikam, which means the energy of a devotee. So Krishna's energy on the other side. So if you picture the Panchatattva in your head, so you got Lord Chaitanya in the middle, and one side you have his expansions and incarnations, and the other side you have his energies. Okay, so Lord Nityananda is his expansion, Advaita is his incarnation, and this side you have Gadadhar, who is his internal potency, the Ladini Shakti, and then you have Srivas Thakur, who is also his energy, okay, Bhakta Shakti, but internal energy again, but marginal energy, representing the Jiva. But at the same time, it's Krishna's energy, so they're Krishna, Krishna in different forms. So that's why the Panchatattva. So Srivas Thakur specifically is very famous. In fact, Lord Chaitanya was once asked. He said, where is... No, actually, Lord Chaitanya wasn't asked. Vrindavan Das Thakur wrote this. Vrindavan Das Thakur writes this in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. He says, there are 4 places where Lord Chaitanya is always present. Always. Even today. Okay? He can be present in Sankirtan, of course. But there are 4 places Lord Chaitanya is always present. Sachira mandire ara nityananda nartane Shiva sakirtane ara raghavera bhavane E chari thai prabhura sada avirbhava Prema krishna haya prabhura sahaja swabhava. So Sachira mandire, okay, on the personal altar of Sachi Devi, Sachi Mata, as in his mother, he's always there. Nityananda Nartane, whenever Lord Nityananda dances, Lord Chaitanya is there. Shrivasa Kirtane, and wherever Shrivasa is doing kirtan, Lord Chaitanya is there. And Raghava Bhavane, on Raghava Pandit's, in Raghava Pandit's house. So these four places, Lord Chaitanya said, I'll always be there. But it's interesting that Lord Chaitanya mentions Srivas Thakur and that he will always be present in his kirtan, because that was the birthplace of kirtan. The birth of kirtan, you know, kirtan is a big thing nowadays. Everybody's doing kirtan. Did you know that kirtan starting 2023 is an official category for nominations in the Grammy Awards? And one group won it. Funny enough, a lot of devotees campaigned for it, including Janavi and a few others, Jayutal and a few people campaigned for it, but they didn't win it, some other group won it. But at least the point is, Grammys, in the Grammy, such a big award, and Kirtan is a category. It comes under ambient sound, and Kirtan and meditational music. So Kirtan is popular. Everywhere, everybody's doing Kirtan. Okay, if you go all around the world, it's catching on. Some are undercover Kirtan enthusiasts. But Kirtan was started by Lord Chaitanya in Srivas Thakur's house. Okay? Public Kirtan in his house. Every night, Lord Chaitanya would get together with all the devotees and he would chant. Okay? Srivas Thakur was born in a place called Srihat. Srihat is currently in Bangladesh. It used to be India at the time. You can go there. It's a nice place. I haven't been there myself. Srivas Thakur had he had 4 brothers, so totally 5 of them. Okay, 4 brothers, and one of them was called Nalin Pandit. Now Nalin Pandit is an important character because his daughter was Narayani Devi. Now Narayani Devi was the mother of Vrindavan Das Thakur. And Vrindavan Das Thakur was the one who wrote the story of Lord Chaitanya, the Chaitanya Bhagavat. He's known as the Vyasadeva of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So his mother was Narayani Devi, so you see the link there between Vrindavan Das Thakur and Srivas Pandit. But he had other brothers, so they're called Srivas, Srinidhi, Sripati, and Sri Ram. Okay, all starting with the Sri. It's interesting. I think it'd be nice to name your kids like that, isn't it? Or Shri. I know, you know, like Sundar Jagannath Prabhu, his name was Silvan. So imagine, you know, your parents name you Silvan, and then your sister Sylvia. Do you have a sister?
Yeah.
Is her name Sylvia? Okay. But imagine you were, you know, Silvan, Sylvia, and you had another brother, Sylvester, and then you know, somebody else. And Simon, you know, like that. So it'll be interesting. Sylvia, Simon, Sylvester, and Sylvan, like that. So there's the Srivas, Srinidhi, Sripati, and Sri Ram, 4 of them. And they were all devotees of Lord Chaitanya. It's so cool to have a whole family of devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Srivas Pandit, he worshipped deities of Gaur Nitai, who you can still see. If you go to Srivas Angan, which is very close to our ISKCON temple in Mayapur, there is Srivas Angan. We can go and do kirtan there. We did that once when we went. The one looking at you and there.
I was also there, but not at the same time.
Not at the same time. So Srivas Angan is a very good place, and you can feel the potency of Lord Chaitanya's kirtan. Over there, they have a drum there as well, which they say was the drum that Chandkazi broke. Shri Gaurnitai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Now, there is another interesting pastime, so I'll just mention that, and then we'll take questions for about 10 minutes. So there was once a situation when there was a kirtan going on in Srivas Pandit's house, And he heard a bit of commotion going in the background. You may know this story. So he heard a bit of commotion and women crying and stuff like that. So he goes, what's going on? So he went to the back and he found out his son had died. His son, who was not well, he'd been looked after, but he had died. And all the women in the house were crying. So he tried to console them. He did tell them that, what to do. Everybody has to leave the body. Death is so sudden. Okay? So sudden. It happens so fast. I knew somebody, just last week they died. In fact, you know her as well. You know Pip from Mind, Body, Soul. She's died suddenly. One morning, she was no more. She was healthy, very good. And it just made me think that death is such an interesting thing. It could happen to anyone at any time, even though you're not thinking about it, or it's not due. Just because it's not due, just because you're not sick, doesn't mean it won't happen. It made me think that how I was seeing people who are not well, okay, who may be sick, who may be old sometimes, or people who are just sick with some, terminal illness or whatever, and they cling on, and they keep living for another 10, 15, 20 years, and the doctor may say that, okay, you're going in 6 months, but sometimes, I know people who've been given an ultimatum by the doctor, like 6 months, 1 year, but 10 years later they're still around. Sometimes people are very old and sick, but they still live till they're 80 and 90. You think they're going to go anytime, but they don't. They're there for 20 years, and sometimes somebody is so well, boom, gone one day. And it just shows that ultimately you can't tell whose time is when. It's all up to Krishna. When your time's up, your time's up. If your time's not up, doesn't matter how sick you are, doesn't matter how difficult life may be, you'll stay. So don't worry about that. When I was flying here a couple of days ago, well, just yesterday, so my flight was 3 hours late. Anyway, we got on this plane and it was wobbly all the way. And then while coming down to land, it was really, really wobbly. And I was wondering, why is it so wobbly? It's there's no wind. It seemed okay. There were no crosswinds. It was just so wobbly. It was like I've taken over 50 flights in my life. Okay, never been on a plane that wobbly. And it's just like going here, there, and everywhere. And then anyway, I said, okay, anyway, we're gonna land anytime soon. So it came down, and came all the way till you see all the buildings, and then you see the airport, and came down. And then it didn't land, it just took speed and went back up. And I'm like, okay, what happened here? And then the pilot announced, he said, sorry, it was due to operational reasons. I said, okay, operational reasons means you didn't know how to operate a plane. So then I figured out, okay, this guy doesn't know how to fly a plane. And so then I started thinking of Nrsimhadev, because now it was a life and death scenario. I said, Krishna, let me go to Zurich. So he turned around, wobbly, still wobbly all the way. Okay, like, this guy doesn't know how to fly a plane. How do you get in there, get him out? But we didn't have a choice, so it was a bit of a tense situation. And in my mind, there were these scenarios playing. What if he keeps going round and round, like 6 times, till we run out of fuel or something? Then we have to land in the Zurich lake, and I can't swim. So there's all these things going in my head. Anyway, eventually we did land, a wobbly, bumpy landing, but we did get there. I walked out of the plane, it was so calm and peaceful, there was no wind. It was just so calm. Anyway, the thing is, death plays on your mind. But you never know. If it's not your time, that's another thought that came to my mind on the plane as well. If it's not your time, it's not your time. Nothing can happen. But if it's your time, you go. So Shiva's Pandit was telling them that, look, but they wouldn't stop. So he told them, look, I know you're distressed, I know you're in grief, I know our son has died, but can you calm down, because there's kirtan going on outside and we don't want to disturb Lord Chaitanya's mood. So his son's died here and he's thinking he doesn't want to disturb Lord Chaitanya who's dancing outside. So he somehow convinces them, and they agree. They agree because they're all a family of devotees. They're like, yeah, we shouldn't disturb Lord Chaitanya's dancing. So Lord Chaitanya's dancing and chanting continues till after midnight, and after that he kind of senses something's not right. There's an air of, there's a whiff of discontent or sadness in the air. So he senses it and he goes, what's happened? He goes, my son's died. And he goes, how come you didn't tell me? He said, we didn't want to disturb you. So he goes there, he touches the son, he wakes up. He says, where are you going? He says, well, it's my time. He goes, I've had so many lives before, and I've died so many times before. And this is the dead son talking. And then he says, but this time, it's perfect because I see Lord Chaitanya while I'm dying. And then he closes his eyes. And that was it. But, see what happened this time? He saw Lord Chaitanya before he left. So Lord Chaitanya specifically came because, so it kind of shows that the Lord looks after you. Prabhupada also said, he says in the Bhagavatam, that in the odd chance that a devotee cannot remember Krishna at the time of death, he says Krishna will never forget his devotee. So even if you can't remember, Krishna doesn't forget you. If there may be a situation, I often get asked the question, what if I'm in a coma? What if it's a sudden accident? What if I can't think of Krishna? Is my devotional life a waste? And Krishna says, no, but I will never forget you. You may forget me, but I won't forget you. So this is Srivas Thakur, an amazing devotee. We couldn't talk much about him. There's not much time. We can go until 9:30, but we won't. But that's it. So we spoke something about Vanaprastha life. We spoke something about King Prachina Barhi and Puranjan. Spoke something about Grihastha life and how it is important to sort of, Grihastha may be important for you to grow, but at the same time, moving on from Grihastha ashram into Vanaprastha is also an important thing to grow. And we spoke about Srivas Thakur and his amazing devotional service to Lord Chaitanya and how he would put everything behind and only put Lord Chaitanya's happiness, and that should be our goal. That's what we can learn from Srivas Thakur. Shri Srivas Thakur ki jai. Okay, we've got 5 minutes. Any questions, comments or criticisms or boos?
So it's okay.
Okay?
Opposite of cool is yeah.
Yeah. Anybody? Sundar Jagannath told me, he said we should leave time for questions.
I had some questions, but I forgot.
You had them but you forgot? Okay, well the mic's coming anyway.
Ask something.
Nobody? No questions? Maybe I can, I told you what I had to tell you. Does anyone want to share anything about Srivas Thakur? Anything you want to share? Anything that you heard that I didn't mention? Any pastimes? Any thoughts? Anybody? Nobody wants to share anything? That's okay. I've been to Srivas Angan. I went on Radhanath Swami's Yatra once, and then we did Kirtan in that Srivas Angan place, and I could see devotees were just going mad, like literally crazy, jumping around, rolling on the floor, like just, crying and jumping and laughing, and it was like being in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. When I was at university, when I was young, somebody asked me a question. They said, if you could go back, it was like a Casey Salk, like a university program, and they said, if you could go back to one point in time in the past, where would you want to go? Would you want to go to Krishna's pastimes, or where in history, if I gave you the opportunity to go, where would you want to go? So maybe I'll tell you what answer I gave, but I want to know what you would choose. Where would you want to go if you go back in time? If you had the opportunity, if I could put you in a time machine, you could go anywhere, where would you go?
Vrindavan.
Huh?
Vrindavan.
Vrindavan. But Vrindavan you can go now. You can fly and go to Vrindavan now. You want to go back in time. Would you go to Vrindavan when Krishna was around? Is that what you're saying? Yes. Okay. Good. Where would you go? Nowhere. Hare Krishna.
Oh, good.
Safe today.
You have a question. You've been listening, have you?
Yeah, I in sick room from Jagannath.
Jagannath sick room.
Yeah, you were saying that like we should not stay in the Grihastha ashram and move to the Vanaprastha.
Oh no. I told Damodar Prabhu set me up with this verse. Yeah.
No, I was just wondering because in ISKCON we have funny, like we start maybe with Brahmachari, then we go to Grihastha, then we go back to Brahmachari and like that.
Yeah.
And like in my case, I married with 55.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you, how do you see the what is the name? Like
Vanaprastha.
the Vanaprastha. How do you see in this age? How do you live? We will not go to the forest, right?
No, you won't. You definitely won't go to the forest.
So how do you see it practically?
Well, the way I see Vanaprastha ashram is one of two things. Either, because what usually happens is in Grihastha life, most people do work hard and buy a house. By the time they're 50 or 60, the children are probably like 20 or whatever, 18, 20, you kick them out. Okay? They should go and spend 10 years in the ashram. That's what I would say. Everybody should spend some time in the ashram. Nowadays that's not so encouraged, and I feel it's important because it gives you very good training, isn't it? Brahmachari ashram. Even if you do at least 1 year you should do, but more better. And then that time the couple can take to stay at home, but they'll pay for the house. Their house, they don't have to worry about the house and stuff anymore. Hopefully they've invested in things and they have a little bit of money coming in, maybe some pensions or whatever maybe. And they can just dedicate more time to preaching. Or if they're still working, maybe shift to like part-time work and spend more time serving, preaching, maybe moving to another place and starting a center and teaching or something like that. So I see it as more of a gradual shift into maybe staying in the same scenario. Children go to the ashram, or even if they're there, it's not your responsibility because they're grown up. Even if they don't want to go to the ashram, if they want to stay at home, they can still, work because they're old now. As in not old, they're old enough. They're old enough to work, and they should be supporting you for whatever there is a need for. Not you, you've done it enough for like 20, 30, 40 years. Now it's their responsibility to work and bring the money for the house and stuff like that, and it's you who spend more time preaching. You can still stay together and preach and things like that. So a gradual shift into more spiritual activities and sort of unburdening of material activities, which you've done enough because your children are grown up and they take more of a responsibility. So that's how I see happening. And the second scenario I see is if you want a bit more of an adventure, I think we need more spaces in temples or around temples in a community where Grihasthas can move and serve at the temple. Like, I don't know if you have it here, but like in Hungary you see that Grihasthas can live and serve full time. So at least at that age, when you finish with all the other things, and you can move into a temple where they can stay in a room, serve in the temple, preach, whatever like that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is that a good answer?
Yeah, that is a good answer. I'm satisfied.
Thank you.
But I have the next question is like, then they are supposed also, like the Prabhu is supposed to take sannyasi, or is only like for the brahmanas? So
it is said that sannyasis are 4 ashrams. Sorry, what am I saying? Brahmanas are 4 ashrams, all 4. It said Kshatriyas have 3 ashrams, so they take Vanaprastha, don't take sannyas. Then Vaishyas have 2 ashrams, Brahmachari and Grihastha, and it is said that Shudras have 1 ashram, just Grihastha, like that. So generally Brahmanas take sannyas, but the thing is in ISKCON we don't go by that anyway. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, we haven't worked that out yet. But I would say if a person is so inspired after Vanaprastha, and if his wife's okay with it, then they can take sannyas. And it's good if they can, because we do need sannyasis, but they don't have to. But I think vanaprastha is more important than sannyas. I think that is something we all need to put more emphasis on a little bit in our society. Thank you. Anyway, my answer was, I want to go back to Lord Chaitanya's Kirtan, because I was reading the CC, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and there is a description of a Kirtan when that Lord Chaitanya does in Jagannath Puri, in the temple. The Veda Kirtan pastimes is labeled. So that description, if you read, you really want to be in that Kirtan. So that's where I wanted to go. If I get a time machine and if I could go back, I would go to one of Lord Chaitanya's Kirtans. Yeah, that would be cool.
What if they don't let you in?
Well, who knows? I'll come back then. Use my time machine again. Where would you go? Okay. Damodar Prabhu, where would you go?
Spontaneously, what came to mind is in Mayapur, where there is the Chaitanya Mat. Mahaprabhu would make dramas,
Oh yeah.
all kinds of Krishna Leela and Ram Leela and this Leela.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a nice place to be, because it's kind of happening, everything is happening there also. Mahaprabhu is...
Lord Chaitanya's, yeah. Watch Lord Chaitanya in a drama. Now that would be Bhaktivedanta players, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lord Chaitanya himself playing Lord Chaitanya. Prabhu, where would you go?
Honestly, I wouldn't mind. Don't get me wrong, but something is fascinating about the whole Kurukshetra war.
Okay.
Whoa.
Something is...
Kshatriya, huh?
Prabhu used to be in a special unit.
no, it's not. It's just something. I'm doing this play like the Mahabharata, and
Okay.
so there's a connection to this whole thing. So
You want to be in the war or you want to watch the war?
No. I don't know. I would like. It sounds a bit. But in
In the war. That's really cool. I've never heard anybody say that, but that's amazing. That's amazing.
On which side?
That's my secret.
Matidi, where would you go?
Mayapur, Kirtan. So after the Barikrams, if you go 1 week out on
Yeah.
Barikrams,
Okay.
and then in the older days, nowadays it's not anymore like this, but after Barikram we came all front
Yeah.
of Radha, they played Govinda Purusham,
Yeah.
and it was just, yes, so like
Yeah.
something, she was places, Kirtan, and we could just go on, and then, all the groups we met there,
Yeah.
right? And nowadays, example, every time, if I don't go to the Barikram, but I receive them, because if you
Yeah.
receive these Kirtans, you get the same mercy like we
Yeah,
did
yeah,
the
yeah.
Barikram.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's
So, but nowadays, these groups come in
yeah.
and they stop the Kirtan. They stop the Kirtan and start talking.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God, my heart every time breaks.
Yeah.
And then when I see a leader, I say, next year, please, that's the opportunity, all groups together, Kirtan.
It's the same. It's the same thing even in like. I don't even go to London Rath Yatra anymore. I used to. I normally used to go every year, but whenever I go to Rath Yatra, everybody just comes and starts talking to